Eve. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host for the evening, Adam Steele, and tonight we are going to be doing yet another mix of the song Chelsea by Dragged Under. Tonight, instead of using our usual DAW and all our plugins, we're not even using the stock plugins. We are using an iPad, mostly for a bit of fun, but partly to prove that you should be able to get decent sounds with any equipment you've got. You don't even really need a computer, let alone some of the plugins that I've used. So, without further ado, let's roll the intro. Yes, everybody. Welcome to people appearing in chat. And hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Trying to see if this is going live on... Oh, there we go. Live on the Facebooks. Because we are also live on YouTube. I've recently changed the setup so that we can go live on anywhere, really. And so... if my voice sounds a bit weird tonight, I bit my tongue a couple of days ago, so I'm slightly lisping. I think I've had some sort of cold or something. Anyway, getting on to the main topic. This is Auria Pro. And it's a very capable... he says. Very capable DAW that is entirely iPad-based. And I've loaded in Chelsea... the song. So we have how many tracks going on here? Quite a lot. It says 75. There's not 75. I condensed some things down, so the overheads that were 2 files left and right, I've made into a stereo a stereo file. The same with the room mics, all that kind of stuff. I've made it so that if I'm mixing a stereo pair, I'm just doing it on one file just to make my life a little easier and save some time so you're not waiting around for me to process the same thing twice. I will be drinking a rum and lemonade over this this stream if anyone wants to join me, if of course you are of legal drinking age. Live on BBC Two. It's Saturday night and we're live, whatever that's worth. As a Brit, that's not really a big thing. But yes, using Auria Pro, it sounds like this because... that's the tracks as we were sent them. The levels are a little different than what we were sent, but there's no mixing of any kind going on here so far. What we can see from zooming in and out is that this song is really quite dense. There's quite a lot going on, but that's fine. I've changed the colours on all the tracks. In Auria, you do that by zooming in, and there's a little kind of colour icon. You click on one there, gives you a choice, and that track becomes that colour. So I've just gone through and made the drums red, the one-shots orange, bass blue, guitars green, and so on. That's alliterative. Completely unintentional. But yeah, that just helps me to see things a bit better. And if I switch to the edit window, you can see there's a lot of tracks here. I've accidentally moved the snare volume there with my finger. But you can see that there are a lot of channels here. And the way that Auria is structured, I've got 8 buses, or output groups, subgroups if you will. So I've made sure I've already routed everything to drums. The one-shots have their own group: bass, rhythm, solo, lead vocal, backing vocal, and gang. And the way that it's going to work with the effects is things like reverbs and delays have auxes, which are kind of tucked away a bit. So it makes it a little harder to get to, but everything is here. Every channel on this edit window you can see has the word effects over the top. And if I hit effects over a single channel, it comes up with this PSP channel strip, which is really quite powerful. It's got an expander, which I might use on a couple of channels, but usually kind of don't. But it's got a nice 4-band EQ with high and low pass filters. It's got a relatively useful compressor. It's got room for up to 6 different aux sends, which we're probably going to use at least 3. I think 4. No, we're going to use 4. We're going to use 4 stereo auxes, which is really quite powerful. And there's a saturation button on every channel, which I'm going to press on every channel. Apparently, that gives it some sort of slight, analog saturation type thing. Am I not sick of hearing this song now? Yes, I very much am, but I thought, you know what, seeing as though the competition hasn't quite yet closed, and I have this to hand, and I'm in the middle of about 5 other projects, but this is something that I can do tonight in one session, and then it's done, and I never have to hear this song again. As much as I do like this song, starting to get a little sick of it now. But I figured this would be a good way of me walking you guys through mixing with Auria and mixing with an iPad, because another benefit of working with an iPad, especially if you're recording stuff, is it's completely silent. Think about that for a minute. Most laptops that you can think of and most desktop computers have some fans in them. They make some noise. If you're a recording artist and you just want to record loads of stuff on an iPad, it makes no noise. The iPad is plugged into this audience sono that you can just not see off camera. I'm just going to move my camera for a sec. In the corner there, you can see I've got the audience sono running, which is working beautifully. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm capturing the screen of the iPad, and trying to send the sound over at the same time isn't ideal. So I'm using the sono to do the sound for the iPad as an interface. You don't have to do that, but for the setup that I have, it makes it work. That's them running into my streaming setup with a couple of DI boxes. Hello everybody. Just to say again, if my voice sounds a bit weird today, it's because my tongue is kind of swollen. It's fine. Nothing a bit of rum and lemonade won't fix. So, like I said, we've got this very powerful equalizer and compressor on every channel. If I go over to the groups, this is where it gets really quite powerful. If I choose effects on, say, the drum group, we have a bus compressor, which has wet, dry, and all sorts of very clever stuff. We have a group EQ as well, which we can use so we're not doubling and tripling up on effects. There's a limiter on each group, which might be useful if we really start pumping stuff. Then there's a choice of inserts on every one of these, which we might not use. We're going to use inserts definitely for the reverbs and delays on auxes. If I go to the master effects, I have already done a couple of things here. On the master, I've engaged the master bus compressor very, very gently. If I hit play, you'll see it barely moving. You see that needle there is on the zeros, barely even doing anything at all. That's exactly how I want that, because then as we start pushing with more tracks, it might just catch the odd snare hit. Then there is a limiter that isn't actually in right now. I might have that in. No need. If I click next to inserts on the limiter, there is a brick wall limiter that is already engaged. So if we accidentally absolutely slam this and there are a couple of potential overs, it will brick wall limit so that our export, even if we're not aiming for like ultimate volume, if there happens to be a particular thing where a crash and a snare and whatever all hit at the same time and it just gives us a little bit of an over, it gets caught. And yes, that is all by PSP, who make some rather nice stuff. You can buy extra plugins for Auria, but we're going to see how far we can get without doing any extra, because I paid for Auria Pro and it's definitely already been more than worth it for what I've done with it. But you can buy PSP's extra plugins. You can actually buy FabFilter plugins, like the Pro Q2, the Pro C, the Pro DSer. There's some really nice plugins. They're nearly £30 each though. But if you're serious about mixing, that might be exactly what you need. So, yeah, I've got a little bit going on the master bus. It's incredibly gentle, but it's there. I just thought I'd let you know that before we get going, because it almost then makes it kind of top-down mixing, but not a lot. Let's start with our drums, which is where we usually start. So I just hit solo on the drums on the group, and if I... Oh, that's going to bring up my Facebook. That's really annoying. So, drums. Let's start with the kick, shall we? Might want to turn my headphones up a little. There we go. So, let's work the way I usually work, which is actually to go with the overheads first. So if I bring up my effects, I'm probably going to want the EQ to hit the compressor. Let's start by scooping all the low end out. Turn the EQ on, that helps. And what's going? Everything's going on all at once. Dig, dig, da 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 da. Scuba doba dee ba dee. Okay, apparently, Facebook, I am live somewhere. But where is the question? Trying to do this with no one on the tech side is always fun. Videos live. Shut up. Right, now I know that's on and we're live. Good. So, moving on. Probably going to automate that section like I did on the main mix to bring the cymbals down. But there's a certain honk that I don't like in the low mids. Let's find that. There. Let's just rewind a little. Take that below zero. There we go. And aside from this, let's see if I can hear where that... There we go. So I flick the switch there to make it more of a narrow kind of cue. Good, 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 good. Now that's going into the compressor, which will turn on. There we go. And I really want a quite heavy 4-to-1. Let's say soft. Makeup. It's going to make it louder. I'll turn the output down to match. And start this again from the start. If I double tap the rewind. Bricky bricky rewind. Then in a few seconds we'll get bow 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 bow. There we go. Make the attack a little slower. And a release a little quicker. I always like a slightly quick release on my compressors. Especially for rock stuff. And that now already has much more control on it for me. He says. There we go, that's what I want to see. I want to see my meters moving. There we go. So we've got our overheads really slamming it now. Yeah, that's what I want to hear out my overheads. Without the compressor, quite lifeless. With beast. We bring them down a bit. Now, onto the room. I have HD 800s. 800s are very, very nice indeed. I'm on the 650s. 650s are a little bit more plain, where the 800s are a bit more hi-fi, but we're talking a really small amount. I'm not using SonarWorks tonight because the iPad doesn't support it. Usually mixing, I do use SonarWorks in my headphones, but tonight I'm going without because I kind of have to because of the streaming and iPad on routing situation. I'm not a big fan of SonarWorks' standalone stuff. I much prefer to go with the VST version and not screw around with it with the system because it can cause all sorts of havoc because of the way that I do things. So, if you're seeing this side, you'll have, yeah, they look like 800s because this side, the mesh has become detached. I think it's down here somewhere, but it doesn't affect the sound. And I've not found time to get that glued back in. It's literally just cosmetic and kind of a bit of a bash guard. So yeah, I'll get round to that. The other side is as is supposed to be. So yes, the 800s are wonderful, and I would quite like some, but I can't afford them. They cost a lot. So the room. Let's have a listen to this again. Loads of low end. We don't need all that low end. Turn the EQ on. There we go. So the room, I've just taken low end out of it so far. Let's just lift it a little bit. Not too much. There we go. So I picked out, what, 7K? It tells me right at the top under the name Chelsea exactly what. You see right at the top there, it says the number of hertz, which is currently 7,018. Very specific, but I didn't want to do like a super high frequency lift on the room because when you do that, it doesn't tend to feel right with these room mics for some reason. But I'll mix that back in with the overheads. So that's the overheads. That's the room. Together, they give me a nice big lively big thing with lots of clear cymbals and lots of life, but not too much abrasive top end. It's a really good start. SonarWorks system-wide adds 4 processors, which in itself isn't a problem for me, and sucks CPU. I tend to find it took about 3 or 4% of my CPU. So that wasn't the issue for me. The problem for me was the routing, and because I use loads and loads of channels and that kind of stuff, and I'll use routing software for streaming, like I've got OBS, I've got Voice Meter running, it can get complicated that way. So that's a very personal niche thing. Yeah, and I'm watching a YouTube video, I'm not that bothered about SonarWorks. When I'm working, then I care. So that's why when I'm using SonarWorks, I know this is completely off topic, I'll get back in a second. When I'm using SonarWorks, it's how to describe it. I use it just for mixing. And then when I'm listening through the system, I want it to sound normal, quote unquote, because it's easier for the weird way that I do things. Anyway, let's bring the kick in now, mic by mic. So here's the kick in. Ooh. Oh, one thing I never did, if I go into the overheads and room, let's try those saturation buttons. So this is the room saturation. And there we go. Room saturation. Don't know if that made any difference. Let's go to the kick. And start by adding in that saturation, which is over by the fader. Can't say I'm hearing any difference with it, but I may as well turn it on and everything, why not? So this is going to need some serious EQ work. In this case, I probably want the compressor to go into the EQ, because it sounds like I want to, yeah, there we go, get a bit more slap out of this. Relatively slow attack, fast release. Yeah, the RMS compressor is, there you go. Yeah, it's not unreasonable. But the EQ, I do want to shelf this to take stuff below... What was it? Below 30 Hertz out of it, because I don't want wub wub going on where it's not needed. Now, 140-ish Hertz, let's turn the shelf on. There we go. So there's, like I did in one of the previous mixes, this has got some very immediate bop 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 bop. Probably want a bit more 1K. Bit more of that slappy. That was the end of the song, so let's start again. Probably don't need too much of the real top end slap here. But let's listen to the, yeah. So that's our out kick, which also needs saturation. Probably just needs, there we go, more level. Do want to push the low end on this. And then add that under, there we go, under the main kick. So without, with we get more of that body. Boff, boff, boff. Boff, boff, boff is what we want. Don't need any compression on this secondary kick mic because it's just level anyway. Let's listen to that in combination with the overhead and room. There we go. Now, there is a certain low mid what I can hear when they're all in combination, so I'm going to try and dial that out of... Actually, what's that dialed at? So that's, I'll copy this low mid thing over to the other EQ, which has a higher range. There we go. Now I get this free again, so I can listen out for something. I'm going to make this low mid thing very specific. Okay, am I going to do the Abbey Road trick? What's the Abbey Road trick? Do tell. It's probably something I do all the time, but don't know it by that name. Plus, I'm not going to have tons of reverb on the drums anyway, because I've got a very live sounding drum room there, and we've got these one-shots to work with, which will just... make everything sound like it's exploding to death. So let's add in a top snare mic here. Very muffled. This needs EQ to go into the compressor. A bit high end here. Roll off reverb at 600 Hz 6K. That sounds awful. No, I'm not going to do that. I've never done that. I do tend to make sure the reverb's not too wild in the low end. I definitely scoop lows generally out of an EQ, out of a reverb. But that depends what I actually have available to me with Auria. That may not be possible today. The high end, I just generally don't choose particularly bright reverbs. That tends to fix it. And generally to me sounds far more natural than rolling all the top end off. But that's just the way it works for me. Yeah. No, I've not heard that called the Abbey Road trick before, and no, I've tried that and I just end up with this big kind of mid build up. So no, it's not something I do. I don't tend to soften off. I don't tend to soften off top end on very much, to be honest with you. I tend to find that using too many filters on top end can make everything sound boxy. It can really start to mess with filter and phase on every channel. And it can really start to make a mix not sound so great. You're better off just not pushing top end. That's the way it's worked for me anyway. So this snare. There we go. So that's my... Oh, I'm hitting spacebar on the computer just by complete habit. Just make sure that saturates properly. Ah, saturation makes more difference on a track that's being slammed. So let's go back to the start and get the bottom snare mic in there, just to give us a bit of rattle. Bow, 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 bow. This might just be a case of make sure it's in phase, saturate it. There we go, it's sounding pretty good to me. Low toms need a lot of EQ. Let's just use this view, the mix view, so I can go to where the toms are and I can push everything a bit. So there we go, so I can see a big tom section. I use the, on the top right, there's a zoom function that makes everything look like it's distorted, but actually helps visually because I can see where sections are coming in and out. Doesn't change volume stuff, just how it looks. So I can see this big tom section here. Cool, getting there. Just want to compress those toms a little bit. Okay, and again, same section, just to make sure this compressor just tickles things and doesn't really affect it too much. There we go, make sure the low end's filtered out of that compressor a bit. There we go, lovely. So let's just find Tom 1, because there's only like 2 Tom 1 hits in this whole song. Right, so let's go back to this view. Make sure that effect was nice and saturated. That tom needed to be panned to the left a bit. And also needed a bit more low-end-ish EQ. Let's try that. Make sure we're in the right place. Sounds good enough. Let's move on. So now, oh, never gonna hear it without the mic being on. Dingus. That's it. So that drum set's sounding pretty good now. Now if we go over to our drum bus, let's look at the effects on here. This is where it gets pretty clever. Make sure that's saturated. Compressor, yes please. Here's the thing I like to do with drums that really bring some life in is compress the life out of it. Come on, that's the end of the song. That's really annoying when that happens. So, really slam it. Come on, bow. There we go. Release sounds about right, so it's got that wah 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 wah. Attack, I want it to be a bit quicker so we get that boboka. Attack needed to be a little faster. Take the low end out so it's not going bwah bwah on the kick. There we go, so that's the drum bus, and now we've got a mix percentage, so I'll turn it all the way off and gradually bring a bit back in until we've got some life and energy. Cool. And then there's a bit of a... I think that was kind of a low mid thing going on the whole kit that I can hear that's subtle, probably around 400 Hertz-ish. And let's make sure that's going into the compressor. There, 300. Just taking out a dB. Awesome. Yeah, don't want the saturation on this channel, it just seems to be softening things off. And let's just check out our master bus. Yeah. Master bus doing fine. Right, so I just added in the one shots there, so let's just add in just the low kick one shot. What's that even doing? Let's just slide that over so we've got kick one shot number one. So we've got a thump thump. We've got a knock knock. We've got punchy snare. And we've got the snare in space. So, let's pull up the drums and the one shots, and like I was doing before, just bring in one. So that's without. That's with. Cool. Now, that's with snappy snare, which needs more low end, believe it or not, in snappy snare. Play. Thank you. Come on. Bow, 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 bow. Oops. Wrong one. Start again. Wait for the snare. There we go. Yep, so let's bring this roomy snare in. There we go. So that roomy snare just had a little bit too much that low mid thing for me. Now our original snare is a bit too snappy. So let's just back that off a bit. Nope. Apologies, I think I knocked the thing. That got really loud then. Let's just... That's not supposed to be coming through there. There we go. Sounded like a pretty good drum kit to me. Again, took a bit more of that low mid kind of 200-300 hertz out of the original kick there, just to stop it sounding so flubby and muddy. So lovely. On we go to the bass. This is where it gets interesting. I duplicated the bass, so I've got one channel that I've just called Bass Direct. So that definitely needs saturation. Let's make sure this is compressed properly. This doesn't need a lot high end. And this doesn't need a lot of high end, which is, again, unusual for me, but it's because there's a duplicate of the bass which is going to have grit and distortion, hopefully, if we can coax some of that out of it. From the top, please, sir. So, a low end, please, lots. So the compressor needs to be more like 6:1. Really nailing it down like that. And I can bring some output up. There we go. So that's got our nice low end to sit underneath. This is where I'm going to change my tactic now. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to set up my reverbs and delay. So there's a button on the far right that is tiny that says aux effect. And so I'm going to set up, if I remember rightly, 3 convolution reverbs. It's a good thing there's plenty of processing on this beast. So number 1 was, I found one earlier called Short Room. And I'm going to even turn the size down on that. I'll play again with it a bit more in a minute. Second one was another convolution reverb. All the convolution reverb. Second one was vocal plate, which again we'll come back to these in a minute and play with them. Third one was there was a snare plate somewhere, snare room, which I might not use. I might use a little bit. That was mostly just for the on the snare. And the fourth one was the stereo delay. Ping pong. Why has it got a choice of left or right? I don't know. I'll take a lot of low end out of that. Might take some high end out of the delay. Don't do it with reverbs often, but I do it with delays. There's something for you. So this needs to be 0 dry or wet. Stereo spread, bit of feedback. 500 milliseconds sounds decent. So our time, if I'm tapping this, tap, 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 tap. About 400 milliseconds. So we're going to leave that on. And now we've got things to play with. So the snare, for instance. How do I? There we go. So there's a little bit of that drum going to aux 3 there. So bass, as we were talking about, this is where it gets clever. Bass, solo, play. Bring up the effects for that. Let's see. Pan aux 3. What was it? No, aux 1. Because this is what I tend to do with bass that a lot of people don't do, is I add bass into a short room reverb along with the guitars, and it gives them a massive space. And people say, it's not mono compatible. Do not care, it works perfectly. Now, let's look at this other bass channel. All the ones in blue I'm a bit hesitant of because they're all inter-app audio and that can get difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this down, hit saturation, and see what happens if I absolutely slam it. So from the top. Bow, 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 bow. There we go. Still got a bit of a low mid honk there that I can get rid of. Really get rid of the low end, blend it back in with the original. Perhaps not perfect, but if I now put that through a group compressor on the bass, it's more like 3-to-1. Very gentle. Not so much low end in the detector. I can add in a bit more of that grit in the 3-4K region. Where am I? 2.4. So let's see how that stacks up with the drums. Oh. Not the best I've had the bass sound in, I'll be honest, but without a dedicated distortion unit there, that's probably about the best I'm going to get without having tons and tons of specific EQs and that kind of thing. If I'd bought the PSP Pro Q, that would be a very good time to use it. So, sweet, sweet rum. And yes, that is a pint glass. It means that I don't have to keep going back to the kitchen in the middle of the stream. Kitchen in the stream, that is what we are. No apologies. Let's limit this bass as well. That's more like it. So with the limiter after the compressor, that's really nailing it down. And that's going to go... 2, 3, 4. Awesome. So, let's get to the rhythm guitars. This is where it's going to get interesting, because there's some very different flavours to work with here. Lead number 1, and let's just solo this one for a minute, and go for the other view so we can see it happening. There's a good bit. Pretty sure I said I just wanted that one. Cheers. There we go, that's muddy as all hell. So, EQ required, yes. And high end required, yes. Bit of a cutting mid, I think. Everything's going bananas just as I'm live. Low mid's a bit thick. There. There we go. Bow, 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 bow. And this should go to aux 1 quite a bit as well, because that will help to make it not sound flat, using that room reverb. Now is probably a good time to go and check that room reverb is exactly what we wanted. Hopefully it is, but we'll see. Aux effects. So, play. Come on. Solo aux 1 return. Why is that button not working? I'm hitting right next to it and it's not soloing for me. Why not? What's going on? Well, it sounds decent anyway. It's not drowning the mix, which is great. Oh. CPU on this iPad's 20 odd %. Maximum CPU is 40 something. Battery's good. Top right is where all this information is. Yes. Oh no, I've only got 16% space free on this 128GB iPad. Whatever shall I do? Right, so that was guitar number 1. Let's look at guitar number 2 and see if we can balance these. Because this is where it gets fun. That's really fizzy. So let's look at the effects. Saturation. EQ, less of that super low end. Less of the top end. But a real push as well. And a good... Let's try that again from the start. Ba-bum. I do tend to find that sculpting the top end on a particularly harsh guitar can really bring life out of it. There we go. So let's just look at the track and use that to determine that we're in the right place. Yeah, so there we go. So this is without, and with. There we go, a gentler slope on the top. So without, busy, grainy, with, much more aggressive, but not nasty. Thank you, Marty, in the chat. Yes, everybody check out the Patreon. It really helps us to do videos like this and spend Saturday evenings in doing streams. So let's bring this filter guitar in. That's terrible. How do I do a little loop? So I'm just gonna go around the loop. Drag the locator loop. I'm hoping I can go around that a few times. Nope, that didn't do it. Drag backwards, drag forwards. So I can make a selection and I can't do much with it. Great, thanks Auria. I'm sure there's a reason for that, but getting back to the effects on this track. This needs to be considerably louder, have a lot less of that low end. Let's see how that goes. Right, so that sounds like it's underwater. It's got some 300-400, maybe 200 hertz stuff going on that's just horrible. Let's try that again. Still too much low end in there. There we go. Stop. And just take the ultra top off that, and that should be good. If they sound great together as a group, but it doesn't fit the mix, I can then do some subtle EQ on the group. There we go. Now it does sound a little more radio effective than the others, but consider for a minute that that's supposed to be a feature guitar as an effect. that's probably not a problem. Let's go over to these, to the clean one. Oh, no, didn't mean to hit record. Right, so this Green Day-ish, crunchy guitar that's in the breakdown there, it doesn't have much character to it. It needs loads of reverb. Also, like the others, has too much low end, needs a bit more brightness, but also needs the super top end to be taken off for that to work. There we go. So again, this is a bit too mid-rich. That may be a bit loud in terms of overall volume, but I think the feel is right there. And the feedback guitars probably don't need much doing to them except for turning up at the right point. So let's add them in, because they were very much a feature. Oh, too much low end. That's all it probably needs. So we're going to try now. That's the drums, bass and rhythm guitars. Let's just see how this sounds from the top. Right, so the rhythm guitars all sound a little bit flat, a little bit quiet, so we can saturate them on their group, turn the group compressor on actually, which on guitars I find with maybe 2 or 3 to 1, works really well if it's very, very, very subtle. Yeah! Feedback guitar's way too loud, that's fine, we'll just turn it down. There we go. See, at this section where everything's going bananas, the bus compressor is actually doing something. It's got a good few dB on it. And it'll drop. And that guitar will magically come up in the mix. 3, 4. Compressor will drop. People say, oh, you shouldn't use compression on guitars, they don't need it. They don't need it. It's a creative choice. It's something that Stephen Slate showed me at one point, where it's one of those things where it just was like, that's it, that's the magic formula, yes. Now, onto these solo guitars, because this is just a single section. These two solo guitars need to be hard panned. Let's listen to that again. Right, so that's second solo guitar. Don't need a piano roll today. What I do need is to just listen to this. It's got a very kind of phased 80s sound. So they've all been run through my JCM 800, so that's not kind of a mixing thing per se. That's just to make my life easier. One thing I'm going to add on this particular track is an insert of that PSP stereo chorus. And see how massive that can sound. Where are you? Over there. So I want a sine wave chorus. It's not very stereo-y. I was hoping that would be like by stereo chorus, I was hoping they'd mean different rates on the left and right. Let's just listen to that again with a bit more high end left in. Well, it's in there now, and you know what? Just to give it a bit more stereo pop, I'm just going to pan it off to one side just so it catches the ear, which looks wrong, but there we go. They all sound nice, and so they get some effects on their bus. So let's take the low end out there. There's probably a bit of a 4K piercing thing that can go, and these are all guesses, but we're going to see how well my guess did very quickly. Compressor, which is, again, back a bit. Back a bit, play. Yeah, so that's aux 4, that's my stereo delay. Yes. Less low end, more ping pongy, more saturation. There we go. Generally needs less low mid instead of more high mid because it's got that mud thing going on. So let's just go back. More volume. And again. Oh, not from right in the very beginning. That doesn't help me. Yeah, so probably a bit loud. Right, so the lead vocal, this is where it gets a bit interesting because I usually slam compression on those. But what I'm going to do, I've changed my groups so that the lead vocal, hopefully if I slam some compression on this and some EQ, it should affect them all equally because Tony the singer was he was good enough to do some cool stuff. I'm going to change the pan on vocals 1 and 2. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I'm going to pan them a little bit, not full hard pan. They were consistently recorded.
You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace.
Makeup, lots of makeup.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all.
Right, so main vocal 1 has to be
Chelsea,
right in the middle.
hey Chelsea.
Here there's going to be a lot of fixing on the EQ, so let's go from the start.
My mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't
There we go.
recognize. Hands cover my face,
So a heavy compression, but with all the low end scooped out before it. More volume.
Hey Chelsea,
Limiter
I'm not always gonna be
that just...
all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all.
There we go.
Hey Chelsea,
That sounds like a nice vocal now.
hey Chelsea.
And let's just
Here
send...
I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me.
And because I've got 2 or 3 reverbs and a delay over to the side, I can just throw a little bit of the vocal to those. And I'm not thinking about, oh, this one needs some compression, this one needs some limiting. Let's just see how this sounds in the mix and then play with levels, etc.
Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. The less you hope from me, the less I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No.
Someone in chat listened to the published mix and they prefer mine. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It's funny how at what I would call a professional level, if it sounds good, it then becomes personal taste. And there's quite a lot of scope for personal taste, as long as it kind of qualifies a certain bar of professionalism, which is difficult to quantify. But I mean, I do this for a living. I should, if I'm aiming at the bar, and I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. So this, let's go back and let's listen from the start.
Speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall,
You'll be with me through it all.
Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place.
Right, so at this point, I'm going to stop soloing things because it's getting quite complicated. There are more things soloed than there are muted, so I'm going to go the other way and just mute the backing vocals and the gang vocals. And go back to just soloing the...
But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace.
There we go. So the what you call it? The EQ on that overall backing group, I folded the harmonies down into a single stereo file because they were all the same. They all needed to be treated as a group. And in fact, in my previous mixes, I had mixed them as a group anyway. So there you go. Yes.
Hey, Chelsea.
Here we go.
I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all.
That's what needs to go
Hey,
a bit.
Chelsea.
More volume is good,
Hey, Chelsea.
but less low end.
Here I am again, I always get it wrong.
The main
Sometimes
vocal's
I
allowed to
wonder
have some
how
low
we
end.
ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused, you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey, Chelsea. I'm not always gonna be
Less low end.
all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey, Chelsea.
Some significant compression.
Hey, Chelsea.
Probably percentage-wise mixed in a bit less. That way.
The less you hope from me,
What was that?
the less you hope from me, the less you hope from me, the
What is that?
less you hope from, the less you hope,
And the main vocal?
the less you hope from me, the less I'll let you down, the less you.
I can hear the producer literally over the headphones going, the less you listen to that again, because I've compressed it quite hard.
The less you hope from me, the less I'll.
Wow. Can hear someone in the background.
The less you hope from me, the less I'll let.
Fascinating. That is there and there's nothing I can do about it. But what I might do is just go back to the lead vocal there and just take a little more low end out. And go back to the backing vocals and see how they sound together.
Let you down, let you down. Escaping great expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down, let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No.
There we go. Loads of echo on the backing vocals. I'll probably back that down a bit in mix context.
My eyes, when you see someone staring back that you don't recognize, that's covering my face. I feel so out of place, but you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace.
Yeah, that was a little overkill. So let's try it in the mix now with those two unsoloed.
Hey, Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey, Chelsea. Hey, Chelsea.
Is this a competition test? No, this is just for fun. This is just me playing with an iPad. I already put my entry in with the first video that we did. Like I said, I don't expect it to win anything, but you know, it's entirely for fun. So, I thought, you know what? Why not?
Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused, you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey, Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall,
Let's bring in the
you'll be
gang.
with me through it all. Hey, Chelsea.
And again, more reverb.
Hey, say, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey, Chelsea. Hey, Chelsea. Chelsea. I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me.
Bit high end.
I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all.
Right, so the lead vocal is loud all the time. Haven't you received your good headphones yet? You're alone here. That might be because you're watching on Twitch. I've got quite a few viewers on YouTube. I'm multicasting on several platforms. Wonder how powerful an iPad is. Well, I've got almost a full mix going with compression on every group, saturation, EQ everywhere, and it's not even hitting 30% of the processor on this iPad. So that's an indication of how powerful an iPad is. I could be running loads of synths and all sorts of stuff. It's really quite impressive. Ooh, Electric Owl Work says, we really like Auria. It's capable little DAW and handy for remote on-site recording sessions. Indeed. Really is. I mean, the fact that I'm proving that I can do this, it sounds like the lead vocal's a bit too loud overall. But generally speaking, I mean, I've pulled a mix together here that's not a million miles away from some of the other mixes that I've done. There are a few things that I might change. I might go and buy a couple of the extra plugins. Do I mix on iPad just because I can? Usually not, but today, yes. Usually I mix in Reaper because it's my favourite and it gets me where I want to go quickly and so on. But yes, today I am mixing with an iPad just because I can and showing you how I'm doing it. So let's go from the start and see how it sounds.
Mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, happiness in my mistake.
Right, so this is where automation's going to come in. So hopefully, if it lets me zoom in enough, I'll be able to, on the lead vocal, volume, I'll add some points on here. I think I just hold and click. Yeah, so I just hold and click. So I just move my points around. So there we go, I can really zoom in and automate these levels a bit.
Trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be.
So there. Banner. Whoa, rewinding way too fast there, bud. So there, I want to add some more points. Make that a little louder there. What's that point got to? Is that control point? Oh, nope. So this is more difficult than doing it with your fingers. That's what she said. Sorry, I apologise for my puerile humour.
Catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be.
So I actually want that to be further over there, and that one as well, so it's not in the middle of a word.
Fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Here I am, here I am.
There we go, where that bar 34 mark is. Add some points in here. Bring it down again to -5-ish.
Here I am again, I always get it wrong.
There's less going on in the track, so I can change it. But
Made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused, you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper.
and that's where we want to bring it back up again. I don't think we need to do any more automation after this. Can't quite remember, so let's find out.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
How am I liking the workflow? Not the biggest fan, because this feels more like a traditional DAW where like aux is hidden away under a knob. You know, the effects are all hidden away under a knob, very Cubase-y. Not a big fan of that. Automating with my finger is excruciating. I'm very, very fast with a mouse and not with one single finger here. But most of it's fine. Have I tried Final Touch? I have Final Touch installed on here. I might use it at the end, actually. It's very buggy and unstable.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
The end lo-fi, forgot about that one. That probably needs the EQ with all the top end rolled off. And I can just hide the automation plate.
Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
There we go, really radio effect it.
Hey Chelsea,
Bit more high end.
hey Chelsea.
There we go. That's got that radio effect on now. I think we're just about there in record time. So let's play it back. The snare's not quite how I would like it, but then I think it would need something. Let's just. Think I'd need a more specific EQ. But let's look at the snares. Oh, again showing you my Facebook. That's really annoying. Let's see how that works in conjunction with the other snare tracks.
Hey
That's better.
Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused you can't help but remember, but I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you me. When I fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea.
There it is. That track's got too much of that thump thump. Where are you? That. There we go. That low mid tubbiness.
So let you down, escaping great expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down, I can't be great expectations. No. The more I promise you.
That whole vocal section there can probably be a couple of dB. Oh, quieter. Don't want to add that to be louder specifically. That's a really annoying thing in Auria, I think. There we go. I'm adding points and it's adding them at the values that I'm asking for, which... No, when I'm doing automation, I actually want... I actually want the points to be where they were. And is it not registering my finger right? Because it's just not coming in where I want it.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
Decent. So let's just mix this down. That way, I'm planning now on trying Final Touch. So I think this is close enough to a mix as I'm going to get without spending hours refining it, because I could go in and painstakingly automate, really dig deep on some of those EQ moves. I could buy the PSP Vintage Warmer, which would make it sound a little more cool. I could get the FabFilter de-esser for the vocals, which have quite a bit of sibilance on them, but I don't want to sacrifice the high end. There's things that I could do that are all available to me if I then go and spend money. Unfortunately, money is not something I am made of, especially not today in this current climate. So anyone who is supporting us on Patreon, I really thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's really helping me to keep these lights on, the filming lights. So it's almost literal where it used to be figurative. So yeah, let's try Final Touch as our mastering plugin. So a mastering insert, this is where it gets fun. Let's drop Final Touch in there and see if that breaks everything. Suddenly we've got a loading screen. There are two copies of a lot of these, and I suspect that the lower one might be the one that I want to use. Yeah, so it's error. So let's try that one instead and see if that loads up. See, this is one of the major issues that I was having with Final Touch, is things like it's not an audio unit, it's inter-app audio, which is sounds useful, but is old and not good. the Pachelbel's Canon and the Millennial Whoop. Yes, it does. Yes, so Final Touch is not wanting to play ball, but I did mix that down. Let's do another mix down to the Dropbox and see if I can just get it. Audio. Let's do that, because then that'll send it to my Dropbox, so worst case scenario, from my Dropbox I can then drop it into Final Touch. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, it does have a bit of that. Oh, oh, the Millennial Whoop. Well, that was a fashion that stopped, wasn't it? A lot of songs at the moment don't have that Millennial Whoop thing in. But, you know, the Pachelbel's Canon, it's not Pachelbel's Canon, it's the Magic Chords, it's 1564. Pachelbel's Canon is the one that's slightly more complicated, but still has the same output. Pachelbel's Canon's the one that goes 1. That's the Pachelbel's Canon progression. And then the 1, 2, 5 at the end. Whereas this was the magic chord, so 1, 5, 6, 4. But it's a great expectant, but you'll let you down. Yeah. So yeah, that's there's a subtle difference, but it was like Pachelbel's Canon, very much in that sense. Now where is come on brain, Final Touche, designed by Positive Grid. Let's just see how I've forgotten how you import stuff. I know, so that's the thing. Let's just if I mix this down a third time but use audio share, that might just do it so that you guys can hear it, hopefully. Every pop punk ballad ever, yes, absolutely. So this poor thing's now creating the third mix down in a row. But silently, diligently doing its work, which is always impressive. How about ending the song with a boom and long delay fade out? Hey, who shall say? Like some sort of pop idol song, like American Idol. I mean, I could. I'd have to find a boom sound to import in. Audio share's not even installed. Oh, what? Blah. That's really, really annoying. Come on, brain. How have I done this before? I think that might have to be where we call it for this particular show. But yeah, I mean, that came together in an hour and a half on an iPad. Could I do a better mix? Yeah. Could I do a much better mix? That's entirely subjective. and I could probably do a mix much easier in Reaper, which is why I did. And the fact that this is available to you if you want to go down the iPad only route, it's really impressive that the software is there for you. It's a little clunky, but it's not the worst. And so I hope that is a satisfying conclusion for a lot of you. And I thank you all for tuning in. That's it for this evening. I'll be back next week. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing some more mix-ins over the weekend, and I've got all sorts of stuff. Yes, everybody remember to hit the like button. It's very much appreciated and helps us to spread these videos far and wide. And yeah, I'm doing lots and lots of stuff over the next few weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll let you know exactly what that is as pieces fall into place. Because there's things like this guitar is currently non-functional because the entire electronics. The thumbs down person, please stand up. Why does somebody always do thumbs down on these? There's somebody who's decided they don't like my channel, and it's weird. It's especially stuff like competitions. Some people get weird. I mean, and yes, good luck for the contest. Well, thank you very much, but I've been quite open about this, and I must say it again. I expect not to win. Not just because there's some great mixing people out there, but also because I personally know the guys from Produce Like a Pro Mix Academy, and so there might be a bit of a conflict of interest there. I don't want to be seen as, oh, he only won because he knows the guys. I don't want that kind of thing potentially tarnishing a reputation. So, yeah, I am quite upfront about this. It'd be nice to get a mention, but absolutely, if they tried to offer me a prize, I couldn't and wouldn't accept it. So, yeah, being upfront about that at every possible opportunity. So, yes, yes, it's been enjoyable, and I'll be quite happy if I never hear this song again, just because I've heard it lots and lots and lots and lots. I'll put this guitar down now and go back to playing with my new toys. I got a clone, a cheap Chinese Mosky silver horse, and my word, it can make guitars raw. A trick that I heard from Lee Mallier from Bring Me the Horizon was to have a JCM 800, which I have right below me here, which isn't the highest gain amp. Everybody thinks it is, but it's not. But everybody uses a tube screamer, and I've stopped doing that, and I'm now using a clone, because a clone's got a thicker low end, clearer top end, and it sounds absolutely incredible. I wonder if I can patch through a piece that I quickly recorded. Let me just find where it is. See if I can get this through to your lovely ears. So where's that going? Voice meter input. So I'm just going to quickly change something. So voice meter input. Audio output capture. There we go, just so you can hear this. So this is a Steve Vai riff that I recorded literally in 15 minutes yesterday. If you can hear this, check this out. And yeah, those drums are thrown together. Those guitars are with a new beta version of of the new Cab M firmware for the Torpedo Cab M. And yeah, that's a load box and a real JCM 800 and this clon, and it sounds massive. So I'm gonna go and play with that more and make a video about that. Making a video about taking my Strat apart as well. Hello, Nick and Chris, my good friends. Good to see you. Just as I turn the stream off, unfortunately. That bass tone was my 2 notes La bass in cold fusion mode, which is the clean and distorted together, and that's then going into that Torpedo Cab M with the new firmware, and it's this bass, which is an Ibanez ATK, which is a cheap thing with a triple coil pickup in, but it's down tuned to B, and it's got some seriously thick strings on. And it sounds beastie, and it's yeah, an absolute monster of a bass, which I got rather cheap with the 2 notes La bass in Cab M. That's it. No real amp, quote unquote, and there's no mixing on that track that I played you either. That is literally just the raw tones. It's a preset drum kit with a bit of compression. That's it. So I'm going to be really working with those sounds to get something that is truly like release worthy, where people talk about it, because I mean, to me that sounds great to begin with, so it's really about fine tuning that. And yeah, definitely going to make a video about that, because it seems that using a tube screamer in front of some amps has been not the right way to go the whole time. Yeah, it is kind of a Stingray clone, but where the Stingray has a dual coil humbucker, this has a triple coil. And it's very versatile, surprisingly so. And yeah, it sounds amazing. I got it for £90 at a second-hand shop. And I got it as a backup. And it's been really good. Neck's a bit thick for me, but for recording, it'll do. But yeah, I'm getting way off topic. And we've been talking about iPads all night. But to be honest, anyone watching this on catch-up's probably already turned off by now. So thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been a bit of fun. And I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you all next week. Cheers, guys. See you later.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.